Hey guys, I'm just checking to see. Looks like we're good. All right. Um, okay. I have a hardline internet connection now, so we should not have any more streaming issues. And this one that I'm doing today, guys, is a little tough. I wanted to do it yesterday, and hi Zeph. I wanted to do it yesterday, but my energy levels dropped suddenly in the early afternoon. And to do this video takes a little bit of energy. I have to be really present, and I want to be as authentic as I possibly can. So, as many of you know from watching a video of mine a couple of weeks ago, the veil is so thin now. I had a friend pass away, Jessica Sanchez. She passed away the Labor Day weekend. And this has been a really tough experience for me. It hit me way harder than I expected it to or anticipated it. And hi Greg, thank you Zeph. And there's been a lot happening outside of that as well that's kind of shaken my life up. And as I've told you guys, the more that you start to focus on building that strong structure of what you want in your life, things that no longer are in alignment with that or are grading against that are going to either leave your life or start to fall away. Things will happen. And that's kind of been happening. And it's all been for, I think, the better. But that being said, there's been some hard moments. And the biggest one has definitely been the death of my friend Jessica. And I think, I mentioned, last week was her, we had a Zoom memorial for her, which was really beautiful. Jason and Jamie put together a beautiful 19-minute video of her and some of her videos that she had done. And just hearing her voice, seeing her speak as if she was still here, that hit straight to my heart. Really hit straight to my heart. And after that night last Monday, it was as if this unleashing of emotions started coming through that I just couldn't stop, and just kept crying, and I got tired of crying. I didn't want to cry anymore. And Tuesday I woke up and I had the interview with Andrew Bartzis, and I just really wanted to be in a good headspace, and I had been continuously just bursting into tears. The tears just would not stop, and I tried to stop them, even just to do some work. And last Tuesday I went to go for a run to burn off some of the energy before my interview. And while I was running, I just started bursting into tears. And that made me run harder and faster. And I tried to literally run through my own sadness. And it got to a point that it was so intense, the overwhelming sadness that was hitting me from this loss, that I almost just dropped to my knees. I almost couldn't run faster. I almost just surrendered and succumbed and dropped to my knees on the running path around the lake. And the only thing that stopped me was I knew if I did, I don't know if the tears would have stopped. I don't know if I would have been able to end it. And so I knew that something really deep was trying to surface. And of course I was very upset and sad about the loss of my friend. And there was a lot of grief coming to the surface. But I knew that there was more to it. This was overwhelming me. And as you guys know through this Raw and Real series that I've done, that I've been very open and honest about things from my past and things I've been healing. And some of that came up, and I realized that I just had to sit in meditation or just in reflection. And I went outside, and I have these pods, and I sat in my meditation pod, and just with the intention of letting it all, letting everything come to the surface, whatever emotions needed to come out, whatever tears needed to fall, and just really honor that divine feminine energy, but also the masculine energy, because that was coming through as well. And just honor all parts of myself that really wanted to go through this healing and be allowed to feel these emotions. And one of the ones that really was coming to the surface was guilt. I was feeling a lot of guilt. I never got to say bye to her. I know a lot of people did. And I feel really guilty about that. And I know deep down she knows how much I love her. But I sat with that guilt, and I'm like, okay, what else is here? Because it feels like it's more than this. And me being 5 years old seems to be a pivotal time in my life, not just from the sexual abuse that I've spoken about, but also I remember the first thing that came to my mind as I started to sit with this guilt was I had a memory come back of when I was 5, and I was sitting in the back seat of my mom's car with my dog, Bambi. And we were taking her to the vet to put her down. She had been really sick. And I remember as a little girl sitting in the back seat telling her how much I loved her and how sorry I was that I couldn't save her, that I couldn't protect her, and that, I think as children, we're so intuitive and we're so emotionally open. Our hearts are so emotionally open, and I just remember being so connected. I mean, she was like my best friend. She was older than I was, so she was there since I was born. And, kids and animals, they create such a really beautiful and unique bond. And I remember feeling guilty that I couldn't protect her and I couldn't save her. And in some ways I felt that way about Jessica. And all of these feelings of just not feeling like I could protect that dog made me realize that there was a lot of grief that I don't think I even felt as a child that I was allowed to kind of go through. I've always kind of gone through this persona of needing to just be strong. And, that same feeling also arises when I think of the sexual abuse, because what I feel guilty of is I couldn't protect myself. And I feel guilty about not being able to protect myself and not protecting my own body. And all of these things were just kind of coming to the surface. And then it was tied into past life stuff as well that I've been recalling and moving through, and where I had lost a baby in the Mayan times. And that grief has been coming through for the last couple of years. It's been very prevalent. And I'm starting to get more visions of that particular time in my past life. And I remember feeling so guilty I couldn't protect the baby. Because I lost the baby in a late term pregnancy. And so all of this guilt of feeling like I can't protect myself, I can't protect the people I love, the animals that I love, and then so much loss and death as a result. It's a heavy burden to carry. And so September has been a very interesting month of healing and trying to get really honest about where I'm at in understanding these old wounds that have been clearly suppressed and tried to forgotten about, but I clearly haven't, my body hasn't forgotten. The somatic response is quite still alive. And I just had to go through this really deep healing with my self, my small self, my inner child, like bringing myself back to when I was 5, going back to that Mayan lifetime, bringing in Jessica, just bringing it all in and having to come to terms to bring in forgiveness. And that was not easy. It's not easy to forgive oneself when you've been holding on to it for so long. And so I had to go through this dialogue with myself that it wasn't my fault that I was 5 and I couldn't protect myself from a man who shouldn't have been touching me that way in the first place. It wasn't my fault that my dog was sick and she had to go down. Like, now that I'm older and I can look back on that, I understand it from an adult perspective. But as a child at 5, I didn't. And I had to kind of have that conversation with myself that there was nothing you could have done. And to do that, also going back into past lives. And so it's so interesting how divinely orchestrated, sorry, my nose is running, how divinely orchestrated everything is in our lives, how synchronistic, and how things come together to initiate healing when it's time. And as we move through things, how certain events can trigger the healing of past ones suppressed. So this has been something that has definitely been weighing on me, and it's been hard. I've had to be gentle with myself, to not push myself. For those of you in my alchemy program, I know you know most of this, not all of it, but most of it. And it's just been one of those things. And the reason why I do these videos, guys, is because I think we have to really honor the vulnerable sides of ourselves, the parts of us that society tells us we can't share with one another because no one wants to hear about our problems. And we need to strengthen that connection to the throat and heart chakra, where we're able to express what's in our heart, especially when it's a broken heart. And it's the only way that we heal, and it's our divine birthright to have those feelings and express them in honor. So I do this because I've not allowed myself for the majority of my life to honor those feelings, shut down my feminine energy, heavily dominant in my masculine. But what's been really beautiful that's kind of come through all this healing is that I've realized that I can protect myself and I can do a really good job of it. And that's one of the things I've been talking a lot about with this personal sovereignty and having boundaries, is that it's so important to have your boundaries, because part of those boundaries is your own protection, whether it's energetic, whether it's emotional, physical, mental. You know, in all of our relationships, there has to be a certain level of understanding of what's okay and what's not okay. And I've just been kind of coming to terms with, what I'm willing to put up with in my relationships and what I'm not, and where I've been lacking in having clear boundaries, and where I don't want to be lacking anymore. And so through this sadness and guilt that's kind of been surfacing, what also has been really beautiful is that I'm finally starting to really understand the power behind standing up for myself and that little girl inside who never really felt like she was able to protect herself, and being able to make better choices in my life, having a more discerning eye, discerning mind, and discerning heart, to be quite honest, about what is acceptable and what is not. And the more that we continue to build these strong boundaries of knowing what our self-worth is, knowing where we're maybe giving too much of ourselves away, maybe not receiving what we wish to, not having a pure balance of what is right for each of us in our own lives. This is something that as we become more in tune with our heart and the healing process, that we get better at recognizing those boundaries. And that's been something I've been exercising this month. And it's been actually making me feel really good about it, because I'm finally, for the first time, not going into guilt and worrying about how other people feel and how, how certain choices that I may be making for myself because I feel they're in my best interest are affecting other people. Because at this point, I have to make sure that I take care of myself first. And that's not easy, because my tendency, my programming has always been to put other people first and not myself, to always worry about how someone else might be feeling versus how it may be affecting me on the inside. And so this has kind of been one of the gifts that's come through this healing and ability to kind of really just get honest and allow the tsunami of tears to come through, because they really were pushing through. And I'm grateful that I'm at a place in my life now. It took me to get into my 40s where I feel comfortable crying in front of people, and just being really honest about my feelings. And it's very empowering. And I do these videos so that all of you know that it's okay to be vulnerable. And it's almost like a permission slip to all of us that it's time that we stop suppressing some of the wounds and the pains, because the only way to heal is to feel. And through the expression of our own heart, we liberate ourselves from the wounds and traumas that keep us locked in unhealthy patterns and unhealthy ways that we live and engage in our relationships and so on. So fucking Tiernami. Yeah, Zeph, it was a Tiernami. So I just want to say thank you to all of you who've shown me support. I think one of the things that I'm realizing is a total lie from my ego, and it's a wounded thought that comes in, is that nobody has my back. And I know that that's something I've talked about this year, that especially with COVID and everything happening, that one of the things that we're being forced upon us to recognize is who has my back. And if I'm being really honest, there's some people who don't have my back, and I wish that they would, but they don't, and that's okay. But there are a lot of people that do have my back. And the more I kind of really become into awareness of what my needs are and what I'm okay with, the more the kind of people that I really do need to have my back and are there for the long haul are showing up. So that's what's important, quality over quantity, guys. In this world, there's when you have like the right people to stand behind you, you got to hold on to them. So that's kind of my raw and real. The tears really weren't stopping, and I had to kind of let them go. And it kind of was synchronized with one of you who I did a reading for last week. You were going through the same thing, and I think it's so interesting how we're all kind of pulled to work with one another as we're going through very similar things. And that kind of triggered me as well, which was good. It was a good trigger. It was a trigger for healing and honesty. So thank you so much, guys, for showing up and being part of my Raw and Real series live. Tomorrow night on the podcast, I'm having Matthew Mornian come on. We're going to talk about timelines and the splitting of timelines and all of that stuff. He did a wonderful healing session on me last week that was very helpful and helped me also uncover some other things that were coming up in my life. So that was really great. So he's coming on the show tomorrow night. And if you guys do want to do work with your inner child, or just through whatever wounds or traumas that you're having, and I'd love to work with you. All the information is in the description below. You can head on over to my website, NicoleFrolic.com, and get more information there. But let me just go through the comments here and see who's in the house. Greg, Derek, Ira, Wise Mama Bear, Yolanda, Unprocessed Grief, Zeph. Yeah. Hi, Mike, Michelle, Zena. How are you, sweetie? And Debbie. Purge and purge some more. It's good for you. Then emerge. Gather in the light and feel your power. I see you shine always. Thank you, sweetie. Yeah, it's important to go through this purging process, because as we move through things, the wounds and traumas are very dense energy. And so as you're moving into like these lighter frequencies and your vibrations rising, this stuff just comes to the surface because it can't stay with you anymore. Like, it's just not part of the recipe of where we're kind of going. And so that's kind of been happening. And I've definitely been feeling huge frequency shifts. The messages that I'm getting intuitively are coming in faster than ever and stronger than ever. So that's been really interesting to observe, that as we start to build these new structures within us, the old structures outside of us start to fall away. And part of those old structures are like the old wounded patterns, the traumas that we're done carrying. And I think like I was done holding on to that guilt and grief. Zeph, your raw and real videos really have been inspiring for me personally to share and not hide my tears. Yeah, oh, that's good. I'm glad, because I wish that I had been able to do this sooner in my life. It's made wonderful shifts for me in my healing and my ability to connect with people on a more intimate level, just from heart to heart, which I love. Derek, no thanking necessary. Nicole, we support you always. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Beatrice. Cassie, totally have your back. Love you, girl. And Cassie, oh my gosh. I know your intuition's going up you're in my alchemy program. And I wish that your mic was able to be unmuted that Sunday call. Because that was a really cool message that you had for me. I got chills when you emailed it to me. Thank you. And then let me just kind of check over here on Facebook, because for some reason my Facebook doesn't come in. Jeremy, Dee Dee, hi, Vanity. Oh, wow. Okay. Looks like I have friends to delete. Okay. Hi, Perez, Scott. So, yeah, speaking of old structures falling away, there's some people that are just pure assholes. And I have no problems getting rid of them. So thanks guys so much for being on the video with me. I love you guys so much. Come back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll be here with Matthew Mornian, and we're going to dive into a lot of timeline stuff. I love you guys so much. Have a wonderful